What's up, humans, and welcome to a new Psicoactivo. Okay, so this is gonna be a sad one because former President Jimmy Carter just passed away at the age of 100 years old, and as a little homage to him, I want to talk about the time when he was becoming president, and he said that he would demand uh, to declassify every single document about UFOs. And then he did become president, and he was denied by none other than George H.W. Bush, who is the father of President George W. Bush. He was the director of the CIA back then, and he was the one who told President Jimmy Carter that he didn't have a need to know about UFOs. There's an old clip from a conference given by Danny Sheehan about President Jimmy Carter's attempt to get UFO information declassified. Here's a clip.
So the bottom line is, when President Carter did get elected on November 4th of 1976, one of the other major things he wanted to do was to get at the UFO information. So he contacted the head of the Central Intelligence Agency, who at that time was George H.W. Bush, who had been brought in by Gerald Ford to head up the CIA, because the CIA was getting dragged over the coals by the Church Committee, by Senator Frank Church in the United States Senate Select Committee on Intelligence Abuse, which all arose out of the fact that the CIA people were in the Democratic National Headquarters doing the burglary. And so that they set up a major select committee to investigate why were these former CIA people and mafia people doing in the Watergate Hotel. And so that Gerald Ford brought in George Bush to head up the CIA to protect them against that kind of investigation. And so on November 19th, just basically 2 weeks after he was elected on November 4th of 1976, President Carter sent for George H.W. Bush, the director of Central Intelligence, and asked him to hand over to him all the information that the agency had on the issue of extraterrestrial intelligence and the UFO phenomenon. And George Bush pleaded with him to hold him on as his CIA director. He wanted to become like J. Edgar Hoover had become in the FBI. And he remained one administration after another administration after another administration. In fact, J. Edgar Hoover, from back in the early 1930s, late 1920s actually, during the Palmer raids, the big famous Palmer raids that went down against, any immigrant who read more than 2 books a year, was being arrested and being chased around by Attorney General Palmer in the Red Scare, the big Red Scare of the 1920s. And J. Edgar Hoover had come on to head up a new group called the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and he remained as the head of that all the way into the 1970s, okay? And so the bottom line is, George Bush wanted to be like that to the CIA. And so he pleaded with Jimmy Carter in this meeting to be left on as his CIA director, and Jimmy Carter told him no, that he had his own person that he wanted to have to be the head of the CIA. And so George Bush refused to give him the information about the UFOs. And he said, if you want to get the information about UFOs, you're going to have to contact the Science and Technology Committee of the House of Representatives and get them to contact the Congressional Research Office and have the Congressional Research Office, the Science and Technology Division, try to apply to get it declassified so you can see it. And so rather than waste a lot of his newly earned political capital, what Jimmy Carter did is he did that. He contacted the House Science and Technology Committee. They sent a request to the Congressional Research Service to conduct 2 top secret research investigations, one on exploring to ascertain the likelihood of there being extraterrestrial life elsewhere than on our planet, and whether it had any relationship to at least some of the UFO sightings. And I was contacted at Jesuit National Headquarters by Marcia Smith, who was the head of the Science and Technology Division, of the Congressional Research Service and ask if I would serve as special counsel to this investigation and see if we could get access to the Vatican archives, to see if we could get the Vatican archives to turn over to President Carter what they had on UFOs and the ET question. And so that's how I became part of that investigation as of the spring of 1977. And it was during that service that I got access to the classified portions of Project Blue Book. And Project Blue Book was a major investigation that had been conducted by the United States Air Force starting in 1952 to look into the issue of UFOs. But it proved to be a complete and total whitewash, and they had secreted away the actual sightings that were real UFOs. And the only ones they talked about publicly were the flock of birds and the swamp gas and that had been misidentified and all that. And they said, see, there's nothing to this. There's nothing to see here. And it ended up closing up that investigation. But I got to see the classified portions and actually saw photographs of an actual UFO that had crashed and plowed across this field and had dug this big trench through the field and was sticking in the side of this embankment all covered with snow, and there were Air Force personnel around taking pictures of it, and I had traced the symbols that were around the bottom of the dome of the thing. It was that clear. The pictures were that clear of this. And so I did that, and I brought it back to Jesuit headquarters, and I met with Father William J. Davis, who was my superior, my Jesuit superior. I was a candidate for the Jesuit priesthood at that time. And I met with Father Davis, showed him the copy of this, and he reaches down, he opens up the drawer, and I told the folks the other night about this over on Saturday night over at the New Living Expo. But Father Davis opens up the drawer in his desk and takes out a little 8.5 by 11 manila envelope and hands it to me. And so I took the clasp off it and I slid out this little 8.5 by 11 black and white glossy photograph of a UFO.
Yeah, so that's interesting, right? Because we've always seen we've always had like this sense that the gatekeepers are mostly related to either the Bush family or Dick Cheney or other people who are close to that circle. Donald Rumsfeld is also one of those. And it is not a coincidence that back then, when he was director of the CIA, Bush Sr. denied access to a president, a sitting president, nonetheless. And after that, I would dare say that it is very possible that Carter was the very last president who maybe was briefed, maybe he wasn't, but after him, there weren't many more presidents who were so open about UFO transparency from the government. And that begs the question, if President Jimmy Carter was briefed on UFOs back then, if he got his wish, because he also made a report, an official report, when he saw a UFO when he was younger. Here's the report, though.
In October of 1969, President Jimmy Carter, who was then governor of Georgia, had a UFO sighting. He filed a report with the National Investigations Committee on Aerial Phenomena. In the report, he described a sharply outlined, self-luminous object about the size of the moon. It maneuvered silently in front of 10 witnesses. At a recent book tour, we asked President Jimmy Carter about his sighting.
What happened to
The UFO thing.
I don't really know what happened to it. I saw one, but I don't know what, it just disappeared.
Well, this is the first. The president...
During Jimmy Carter's presidential campaign, he promised to make public what the government knew about UFOs. In an effort to fulfill this promise, President Carter's scientific advisor, Frank Press, wrote a letter requesting that NASA lead the investigations into the UFO phenomena. When news of this pending investigation reached Air Force Colonel Charles Senn, he wrote NASA. In closing, he stated, I sincerely hope you are successful in preventing a reopening of UFO investigations.
Whatever activity is going on, to the extent that it is a clandestine group, a quasi-government group, a quasi-private group, it is without any type, as far as I can tell, of high-level government oversight. And that is a great concern.
In December of 1977, NASA officially declined President Carter's request, proposing that it take no steps to establish a research activity in this area.
Did you ask when you were president? What is it?
Yes, but there's a lot of different answers, and nobody has proof of things.
So if he was briefed and he was told everything, and then he suspiciously went really silent about the whole topic in general after that, what was he told? Because there's a lot of like different interpretations of that. We still don't know. But I dare say that so many presidents have at least mentioned UFOs, none have been as frontal on the topic as Jimmy Carter has been. But why would people keep saying that the topic is fake or that it doesn't exist or that it is mass hysteria when presidents who are sitting presidents are asking about it actively? Why would that be? Could there be like a certain level of fear that maybe President Carter realized that it was something really overwhelming for people? I don't know. But whatever that is, it does kind of feel like things are getting ramped up recently. And I certainly hope that we can get more transparency on everything soon. Another one who didn't get his questions answered, or he didn't get them answered for the people because he tried to do it for the people, is gone. We can add President Jimmy Carter to a long list of people who, in my estimation, because when you go to every single branch of government and the military, there's always a wall there of people who passed away who made incredible contributions for their branches. And I think, and this is also in the Secret Machines War book from Peter Lavenda and Tom DeLonge, and I agree with this. I think that there needs to be a wall of people who dedicated their lives to researching this topic once we get the transparency that we want, whatever that is. It doesn't really matter. What matters is that people like President Carter, or like Dr. Stanton Friedman, or like Dr. John Mack, or Dr. Robert Wood, or so many, they deserve their names to be there as a reminder of how they gave their lives to getting to know one of the biggest secrets in humanity's history, at least in this iteration of humanity, because I have no idea, none of us have any idea if before the Ice Age, there may have been some kind of civilization as well. So I want to hear your thoughts. What would you like to say about President Jimmy Carter? May he rest in peace. And what do you think about this idea of a new wall once we get transparency of all of the people that passed away without knowing the truth? Do you think it's a good idea? This is Mr. John Lear talking about quoting President Jimmy Carter in that old interview from the 80s with George Knapp. Here it is.
If I become president, I'll make every piece of information this country has about UFO sightings available to the public and the scientists. I am convinced that UFOs exist because I have seen one.
Jimmy Carter says he saw one.
That's Jimmy Carter. He saw one in 1973.
But he didn't tell us, did he?
He doesn't. The pressure is enormous on these people to cover this stuff up.
Let's just hope that we can get that transparency we want, because there's already a lot of researchers and doctors and people very important in the topic that are past 80 now and they're still searching for truth. So it would be really cool if maybe the new administration or maybe something else comes forward and we finally get a little bit of clarity on this, because we can't keep just ignoring this fact. People are passing away and we're not getting the full enchilada, and that's really sad. I have a friend who told me that all he wants is for his dad to know what is going on. They've been investigating this for decades. He told me, I'm not going to let my dad die without him knowing the truth. I am 100% convinced there's a lot of people that is going through that right now who are interested in this topic. And I think it's just really unfair that they haven't gotten any level of truth. Maybe President Carter did. He was in a privileged position. Granted. But what about the rest? It's just really sad. And I hope things can change over the next couple of years. I think humanity deserves it. I think they're ready. I think in the recent years, there's a lot more awareness of things happening and weird things at that. So let's hope it does. And may President Jimmy Carter rest in peace. I'm going to ask you to hit the like button, share, comment, subscribe, hit the bell icon. We're about to reach 12,000 subscribers, so thank you. And we just reached 1 million views, guys. Thank you so much for this great achievement. It's thanks to you. And I'm motivated every day to keep putting out videos and just talk about these topics that are very close to everyone's hearts in here, I'm pretty sure. So let's keep going. Here's for another million, yeah? And let's hope we can get to way more subscribers too. That'd be really cool too. This is it for me today. I'll see you guys in tomorrow's video. Bye.